Ace Magashule on Point of View with Phemelo Motene.
Well, it's 2 minutes after 8. Thank you so much for being with us. This is Point of View. My name is Phemelo Motene. We're going to be together until 10 today. And today, more than ever, this is the time to call in. 086 0000959. You can also engage us on Twitter at Kaya On Air, or you can tweet me at Phemelo Motene, and the hashtag is Point of View or POV. And we have been working very hard behind the scenes to get us to speak to Ace Magashule, who he calls himself the ANC Secretary General. You may have heard on the promos that have been playing throughout the day today as well as yesterday. He's in studio with me this evening. Ntate Magashule, thank you so much for being with us. Good evening.
Thank you, Phemelo. Good evening, and good evening to the listeners too.
You recorded a really nice intro for us the other day, and a promo. And I think you and I had a little discussion before that, and I said to you, "Oh, you're calling yourself the Secretary General of the ANC?" You said, "Absolutely."
Well, of course, I was elected by conference. Never mind the suspension. Next year, 2022, we're going to conference. And we're looking forward to that.
Why should we never mind the suspension?
Well, it's part of the body politics of the ANC, and I think there is further engagements, be it through legal processes or otherwise. We hope we'll resolve these matters as time goes on.
To what extent are you willing to engage with that particular conversation, and to what extent are you willing to tell us? I know some of this is sitting in court. I know some of it you can't talk too much to it. But others that are sitting in the ANC are saying, no, well, we had unanimously resolved that, I think it was in August, that we are adopting this resolution of the step-aside rule. Then, of course, within the movement itself, others are saying, well, that definition has been narrowed down and we don't quite agree on the definition or the interpretation of that resolution. Why do you think that there is a contestation of the interpretation of that particular rule?
Well, as you have said, we have argued, and many within the ANC have argued, that the highest decision-making body in the ANC is the National Conference. It is not the National Executive Committee. The National Executive Committee comes in between conferences, but conference resolutions are sacrosanct. You can't change them. And that's why we are arguing, even in a court of law, that the National Executive Committee has no power to change the resolutions of a conference which was attended by more than 5,000 delegates and is now changed by 86 people plus ex-officials.
So my question is, why do you think there's a contestation of the interpretation of the resolution?
We argue that you can't change that decision. And in the ANC politics, you don't just use the majority. Yes, the majority view is always, I believe, always right. But when you engage, you persuade one another, you engage until you think that let's further engage, but you don't change because people are going to ask you. And as I've said yesterday when I was with JJ,
yes,
one of the elders and real veteran posed a question to me: why are you guys in a hurry to implement this resolution, which can still take almost 10 to 15 years before implemented, because we are entering a particular area or terrain of struggle. You are failing to implement nationalization of the Reserve Bank, taking land without compensation, free education, the state bank, as well as the post bank. These resolutions have been taken long ago. Why are you in a hurry to implement this one? Why in a hurry to marginalize, put aside other people? Part of the resolution says it must be in the interest of the unity of the African National Congress, because all of us agree that indeed we must fight corruption, but corruption must not also have eyes. And you can't, based on allegations, conclude that the person is corrupt, because nowadays anybody can use state organs to get into our political battles, which is quite not good. I hope that is politics. We have to engage and ensure that we stabilize the country, stabilize the movement, because our people are looking at us to address. I've seen the issue of unemployment today, almost 42%. I know people will want to say 34%. No, it's 42%. Almost 11.7 million people unemployed. I just wonder, what do they eat? How do they take their children to school? Those who have also joined, who have been retrenched in the last year during COVID, how do they survive under these difficult circumstances? Those who are in business, I think the middle class, completely destroyed. People's cars have been taken. These are the issues, current issues, which the African National Congress, as the leader of society, including myself, we are supposed, I'm not excluding myself from the leadership collective, we are supposed to be focusing on.
So if we bring you back into the fold as part of the leadership of the ANC, you have been there for a while, and we speak about other resolutions, rightfully so, that have not been prioritized. Why do you think that is?
Well, you can't say we are not going to implement some of these resolutions. When these resolutions were taken as far back as 1955 in the Freedom Charter, what made us, even during the years in the 80s, to fight, there was those who were referred as workerist and charterist, yeah? And all those who came under the banner of COSATU. When COSATU was established in November 1985, were charterists. It means they were associating themselves with the African National Congress, and clauses of the Freedom Charter are actually guiding us, because a lot of our resolutions, be it expropriation of land without compensation, be it the issue of free education. People say we have never said that. I always say, before every election, even in 1994, if you go to our manifesto, we said the ANC, we will provide quality basic quality education, which is free. And there was no ambiguity about it. There was no ambiguity about nationalization of the Reserve Bank in terms of the constitution, sharing the economy, because a lot of people think that we don't want and we don't like whites. No, that's not the point. But during apartheid, white people benefited. Black people, especially Africans, were marginalized by all means. And that's why in the strategy and tactics of the African National Congress, throughout years until now, it has always talked about blacks in general and Africans in particular, because we are recognizing the history and where we come from. And we were not actually marginalizing so-called other national groups. It's because we were definitely highly exploited and oppressed as African masses. And that's why we came together under the banner of the United Democratic Front. And that's why we must still build a non-racial South Africa, which is prosperous. But prosperity is not reserved for a particular national group. Prosperity is supposed to benefit the majority of South Africans. And those majority in South Africa are black Africans in particular. And I don't think we should miss that point. That's the basic, that's what we have actually fought for. Non-racialism is not just artificial. You count how many blacks Africans are there, they are 10. How many, this one is one so-called colored, this one so-called Indian, and then you say, no, but you guys must have so many. It's more, it becomes artificial. It will evolve. And we will actually reach that stage where we have a non-racial South Africa, but prosperous. So for now, black African people are still living in poverty. The millions we are talking about are black African people who are unemployed, who live under poverty. And those triple challenges, the African National Congress is supposed to, including myself, not be fighting. We are supposed to be resolving those matters because indeed yesterday we are freedom fighters. What were we fighting for? We are fighting for a better life for our people.
And then back to my question, then why has it taken so long to prioritize those resolutions? And you are right, you've taken them right back to the Freedom Charter. And when you look at what happened in 2018, many South Africans set that out. I mean, I think it was about 17 million. And to me, it's not only the ANC they were rejecting other political parties as well. When you have a country that is categorically telling you that they have lost faith in the current political system, because that's my understanding of that kind of voice, how does that sit with you as someone, as you said, who's fought for so long for us to get here?
Well, one will feel bad unless if you are in your comfortable position. Fortunately, I've been in legislature or parliament for almost 25 years. And people have been arguing that you can't be there forever. Sometimes we say, no, we need experience. But when are the other ones, the generations after us, going to get that experience, even if you don't nurture them and prepare them for that eventuality? So I think when one sits down and you still think our people live under poverty, I don't think we feel good, unless if we are not born and bred and brought up by poor people, by poor parents, because I think and believe that the majority of South Africans comes from those conditions of the yesteryears of apartheid colonialism. So I think we will flash back. We always continuously do so. And we have seen this hunger and famine very serious now during COVID. We always do door to door, but during COVID, those who don't do door to door, they don't really know and feel what our people are thinking about. And that's why, with years to come, sometimes people will even reject political parties, which has been there for years. I hope that won't be the case, but...
Well, the position of the ANC is slightly different because you are the governing party. So, in your view, what's the problem? Why has it taken so long for us to correct the kind of issues that we know have been with us for as long as we have?
Difficult, because the ANC is an omnibus. It's a broad church. It has Jews and Gentiles, poor and rich, educated and uneducated. And I always define what education means. It's not certification. So that broad church, and that's why we have to discuss. You don't have to be arrogant. The ANC originally is an organization of humble leadership which listens to the other side. And I think that character is changing now during our leadership. And if we don't correct it, I think we will finally leave our masses behind.
How would you characterize the health of your organization, the ANC, currently?
Well, I know people sometimes will say, this man says we are divided, but even the president has said it publicly. The president has said the ANC is accused number one in terms of corruption. talks about the ANC, the organization. And I'm sure some people have said, but it can't be true. It should be individuals within that leadership collective. But it was a general type of a statement, and I think that's where the ANC is. And it is up to the ANC leadership to implement resolutions. You know, as a person who has been in government, levers of power, corridors of power, sometimes you think you have arrived, you know everything, you leave people behind. You only realize when you are out of political office, you find yourself alone there. You'll find yourself alone if you have not been part and parcel of those communities you have been leading, and you'll definitely feel it. But if you have been part and parcel of those masses who are jobless, who are attacked all the time, JBVs and all that, who sleep without eating, if you have been part of them and you understand them, there is no way that this movement will lose power. But if you are aloof from the masses, I think you have seen in Zambia how elections were lost by. It's no more about the glory and the glorious movement and the brand and the history. It's no more about Amandla Ngawe to Freedom Charter. It's about whether people, as Oliver Tambo said, and many of the philosophers in politics, is that you can't eat. You have to eat something. You can't stay poor. You can't stay without eating. So the ANC needs to address those simple basics. And you see, even basic income grant, it has been discussed for how many years? Yeah. But there are difficulties sometimes in terms of implementing some of the resolutions. You don't conclude by saying, when you have not even tried, by saying, no, these resolutions are difficult to implement, but we have never tried. When I was in Cuba, the Cubans said there are two things if you, the African National Congress, can do during your term: nationalization of the Reserve Bank and expropriation of land without compensation. They said good luck. They said the struggle is beginning there, and the enemy is going to try and divide you so that you are not able to implement this particular decision.
Thank you so much for staying with us. As I did say that I will take calls on 086 00 959, and I'll also be looking at your tweets at Kaya on air. But before we do that, so Mr. Magashule, you've got, a case that you are, you're appealing one, I believe. You are in processes of the courts. You have faith in the NPA?
Well, let me just say, because that's where sometimes I differ with lawyers. I'm a student of law. I did only first year, LLB. I passed it very well in the 80s, and I had to leave the country. And where I differ with lawyers, they say, don't explain too much these things. Just say to the South Africans, the matter is sub judice. I say, no, when you say sub judice, people think you are hiding behind that issue. But I think the advice I got is that don't get into details, because when I appear in a court of law, and that's why I chose not a commission, I chose a court of law which has teeth, because in a court of law, whoever alleges must prove beyond any reasonable doubt.
Are you speaking about the Integrity Commission? Is that what you're referring to?
No, I'm talking about
the State Commission.
The State Commission, vis-a-vis a court of law.
Sure.
Because a commission,
sure,
like I've seen the Arms Deal Commission, there was a review and by a court, and the court said all the things which the Arms Deal Commission has actually said, all those recommendations, because recommendations are recommendations, they are not bound by law. So I think I so wish that the case goes on, and it shouldn't take long, because I think it was deliberate, but I'm ready, because people sometimes say, no, you guys don't want to appear in court. If I'm charged, I will prove in a court of law that indeed the charges were flimsy, and this is where I've argued, and it's not for the first time, and I'm not saying it outside, even within the ANC, I have a complaint about state organs being selectively used against certain people, not just within the African National Congress, and this is what has made us to fight apartheid. This was what has made us to fight and try and fix the African National Congress. And that's why we are appealing, whether it's MPA, whether it's law enforcement agencies, if they do their work professionally, if they don't take my side, your side, somebody's side, and they just base their work on honesty and credibility, this country will be wonderful.
So I don't know if you saw, whether you did or not, it's not really the point, but outside Mangaung Court, when you were addressing supporters, there were others who were burning T-shirts with the face of the president. And as I said, I don't know if you saw that or not. That's not the point. The point here is that those who were doing that sent out the message that they must believe that the faceless people that you talk about that are behind your troubles, one of which must be President Cyril Ramaphosa. In fact, they vocalized it. And as I said, I don't know whether you know that or not. But how do you react to that? Because whether you are saying that or not, you have supporters who firmly believe that he is one of the instigators behind your troubles, which they vocalized.
Well, as a responsible leader and a member of the African National Congress, who has been nurtured and groomed and grilled in the correct traditions and customs of the organization, even when something is wrong, you don't add fire. You act responsibly, because we have to be sensitive here. The ANC is not about leaders. The ANC, and that's why it's 109 years old, it's an organization, because individuals and leaders come and go. And when you ban the ANC logo and whatever, you are killing it completely. So I will be the first to say, even during the time of then President Mbeki, people tried to do this, and we said it is wrong. So if it was wrong during President Mbeki, if it was wrong during somebody's term and all that, it will be wrong. I can't now have to apply different standards. So one will say it is not the right thing to do. We will still differ. We must differ with respect. And that's why in my interviews, I don't want to talk about individuals. I don't want to talk about certain leaders, even if I believe that they have done wrong things, they've received money, they've disinformation against them. But I'm not a judge. I'm not MPA. So I will say whatever allegations are allegations. Street gossips are street gossips. Yeah.
So in your view, is part of the problem the fact that there are no holy cows? Is that really what it is that you are fighting about? That you're saying, well, you want to point at me? Look at all the other fingers pointing at yourself. Is that really at the center of this? That the ANC has been so compromised that when you look around the room, you do ask yourself, why are you pointing at me? because all of us perhaps are compromised. Is that where the battle is?
No, I won't argue that way.
Okay.
I won't even say why point at me, because if you say why point at me and not others, it's like I'm accepting that I've done something wrong. I say I've been MEC for 5 departments or so. I've been in Parliament nationally for 7 years. I've been in the Free State as MEC, Chief Whip, and Premier. In that period, I've never stolen a cent. Why will I steal a cent when I am about to finish my term as Premier? I've finished 10 years, 2 terms. Obviously, there is no any other term beyond in terms of the Constitution of South Africa. And so I won't talk, compare. If you don't do this to me, you must do it to others. We are just saying there are 10 clear resolutions on fighting crime and corruption. And it says you must take into consideration that people are innocent until proven otherwise. It's a universal principle which many of us who were fought for freedom, and the majority of South Africans, because when we talk about people who have fought for freedom, we think it's us leaders. No.
But Mr. Magashule, you have said it yourself. You've pointed at people to say, but what about this person? But what about that person? But what about that person? And you are right, because those people do have allegations.
Yes. I'm citing that because I'm saying it's not about those who are charged. It's about even those who have allegations against them and all that. I think it was, I know sometimes it's a media hype. You know, somebody says, if you repeat lies and repeat it, people are going to believe it. Look, Zweli Mkhize has not been charged. But there was this hype that he must resign, he must step aside as a member of the cabinet. Where is justice and fairness? If he has been removed, or if he stepped aside, because if he was not going to step aside, I'm sure he was going to be removed, and we're going to say pressure from the public. But the man has not been charged, because you are saying you, Magashule, have been charged, and people want to say no. And this is where we say, and in court we argue that the ANC National Executive Committee, with due respect, cannot change the highest decision-making bodies resolutions of conference.
Let's take those calls, 08600000959. Let me then go to Tlekani. Tlekani, you're also in Joburg South High.
Hi. How are you, Phemelo?
I am so good. Thanks for calling.
Thanks for taking my call. Leader, how are you?
I'm fine, my brother. How are you?
I'm okay. There's things that I don't understand. That CODESA, the president was in the forefront, and the late President Mandela. And before we get that, when he was received by the current president and the Gupta brother, one of the Gupta brothers. So I fail to understand, why do they want to pin everything on the former President Jacob Zuma on the arms deal when the Mandela signed off the deal? You see, before Mandela was released, big companies internationally, so they retrenched, and they formed the labor brokerage, which is, if I look at it, it's slavery at its best, because you were redirected to a white man who was helped to form a company that will be a labor broker to Coca-Cola. I know a man who worked for 20 years for Coca-Cola, who had cries, and when he goes to Coca-Cola, Coca-Cola said, "I don't know you," but he's in the plant. You see, I don't know, but maybe you, leader, can tell me, why should we go through this? when we say we are liberated.
Mr. Magashule? Thank you, Hlekani.
Well, I think it's. I wish Chris Hani was still alive. Unfortunately, they realized that it's one key leader who must not see freedom. Walus was one of those people who made sure that Chris Hani does not live to be part of the leadership of government of the people of South Africa. I don't want to talk about CODESA and the weaknesses of CODESA, the sunset clauses, why we couldn't change certain things, and when we even had 2/3 majority as the African National Congress, we did not actually use that power to do certain things.
Why is that the position? That there are things that are not open for us to discuss, like CODESA?
No, we can discuss CODESA.
Okay. No, I just heard you say you don't want to.
I say I don't want to go to there because we are still also going to differ there, that so and so sold out and there were sunset clauses. We couldn't come in and remove people in certain offices, and this is where even the National Treasury was, whilst the ANC was sleeping, the National Party made sure that with Treasury, they make sure that they put their people, and that's why we're struggling to change certain things when we take resolutions of conference. Because my understanding as a person who has been in government, I have by all means tried to look at the resolutions of the ANC, and you see the person who was asking this question was talking about labor brokerages.
Yes.
Immediately I became premier. I said, away with labor brokers. It was an ANC position, but it was not implemented uniformly nationally. We operated like a federal type of an organization. So in the Free State, the first thing I became premier 2009, I did away with private security. We took those people who were working for private companies in security, private companies in catering in hospitals, and those private companies in cleaning. And we made sure, year one, that those people become full-time employees. They are now going to know that they get their salary on the 25th or the 15th. They're not relying on a security company being paid, the cleaning company being paid. That's the legacy. But I was trying to implement resolutions of the ANC. And that's why I'm dealing with the issue of the labor brokers.
Okay. Let me go to Mandla, who had lost a bit earlier in Johannesburg. Mandla, I hope this line is much better now. Hi.
Yes, can you hear me now?
Excellent. Yes, go ahead.
Okay, thanks, Phemelo. Yeah, I was asking about the resolutions, because you see now I hear Mr. Magashule and others are saying the resolutions are not implemented. But I was just asking that the resolution of labor brokers was not implemented. And in fact, the one on education, even during the height of freeze must fall, was implemented right in the last day when the former president announced it, that the free education be adopted. And at that time, I was not hearing Mr. Magashule and others, really pushing on resolutions. And the second question that I wanted to ask him is, the way I knew the ANC was that people campaign, and after conference, the losing slate or whoever will collapse and they'll rally behind the leader. But I don't get the sense now. There's this intense dislike for the current president. And I just wanted to ask him, is that how we should look at the ANC now going forward, that whenever they come out of conference, those that were on the opposing side are not going to put their spears down. It's just going to be sniping at each other till the next conference. Yeah, those are the two questions.
Mr. Magashule?
Mandla, I think your questions are very fair, objective. I can tell you, because I have served under all the presidents, from Mandela to Mbeki to Zuma, and now Comrade Cyril, President Ramaphosa. And I've respected all of them because that's how I was groomed in the African National Congress. Respect for leadership. And I've always said President Ramaphosa is the leader of the party. I'm Secretary General. And therefore, we are there to support each other, one another as a collective. And I have, in case you don't know, in 2012, Mangaung Conference, it was us, so-called Premiers League, plus other comrades like Swedi Mkhize, Sihle Zikalala, and Mbola. It's us when Comrade Cyril was not there at all. Remember, we were even nominated in that conference, and it was clear that we could win any, and it was us who then suggested that let's approach Comrade Cyril Ramaphosa. We met and we discussed this matter, and we said, let's give Comrade Cyril deputy president. And that time, there were people who were saying he's a bourgeois, he's part of the bourgeois, he's part of the capitalist, and politics is politics because it's dynamism. It's not static. In 2017, those who were saying he was a capitalist, and it was them who said, no, he will be a good president. So all of us had our own preferences at different times. And I think once the outcomes came out, we accepted. And that's why I say we are supposed to be focusing on unemployed, fighting poverty, education for our kids. I can tell you, it's only during President Zuma that the National Development Plan, Vision 2030, long-term planning came into existence. I've been part of government. We have been planning ad hocly. But from 2009, and it was in 2009 election manifesto, after Polokwane, where education was apex priority number one, followed by health and followed by infrastructure, rural enterprise development and all that. And I can tell you, if you think we did not implement, we started implementing the Doors of Learning and Culture Freedom Charter practically in 2009. And I maybe later on I will come to that to say me and the collective. Me, meaning myself and other members of the legislature or collective of the Free State Council, we came together and we read the resolutions of conferences, and we said, let's implement in a small way because national is not moving faster. Let's implement in a small way. So we'll come to that part of education and health and the manifesto.
Thank you so much for staying with us. We do take those calls now on 086 00959. Ace Magashule is my guest this evening, and I will also be looking at those tweets at Phemelo Motene, at Kaya on air. The hashtag is POV. Simpiwe is calling us from Joburg South. Simpiwe, hi.
Hi, Phemelo.
Hi, welcome.
How are you?
Good, thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you. Ntate Magashule, you're speaking so nice. I like the way you're talking, that you can realize now there is unemployment, there is poverty and all those things. But to me, Ntate Magashule, as a South African, I must say that we are all capitalists. We are all, in the same WhatsApp group. I'll give a typical example. You be the premier of the Free State, Ntate Magashule. I've been to Kwakwa. It was the most poverty-stricken area while you were the premier. But basically, let's forget about unemployment. Water. There was no water all over Kwakwa, and you went to a funeral. And that time you were the premier, the Magashule. And you forgot completely that people must get basic things like water and all that. Now, the reason why you're talking so nice is because you're out of the office. And you need to mobilize people that they can go to next in 2022, as you have said that you're going back to the conference. I think that Magashule, it's high time that you people must stop doing the politics, of the stomach, you are desperate now. You want the votes of the people that you ignored earlier on. You can only realize now that people are unemployed, there is poverty and so forth, because you feel left out in the court. No, let's not take advantage of the South African. You see what happened last week was not about the President Zuma issue. It was because people are hungry, desperate, and frustrated. Thank you.
Dr. Magashule?
Simpiwe, thank you very much. Simpiwe, this is where I say, as the country, and I've learned from China, one of our friends, which I don't know whether we still take them serious. When you plan, you have a national plan. You don't have what you call a provincial plan. Because if we do that, every municipality, every province, I can assure you the problems and challenges of former Bantustans, your Kwakwa, your Siska, your Transkei, your KwaZulu, and those were artificial economies created by apartheid. They will never be dealt by the provincial government or by municipality. And this is where I learned from Chinese. They identify an area as a national. But we have tried. You can't say during our term we have not tried. If you go to Kwakwa, I can tell you, because priority number one in terms of the 2009 election manifesto was education. And the students of Kwakwa in the 10 years we have led, we focus on education. We took more than 1,432 international, and we took more than 12,000 to various South African universities, as well as FET colleges. And the Kwakwa, Botshabelo, Tabanchu, and smaller areas, their kids were the best in education. So we focus in education. We knew the challenges in Kwakwa were roads and electricity. And I can tell you, even the provincial government today and the municipality will never ever fix those challenges of electricity. It needs national, and we have been saying to national, even during President Zuma's term, that here we need ESCOM to play a particular role. The way we let ESCOM run South Africa, ESCOM was collecting from richer areas, and municipalities are collecting from poorer communities. And you then think that the municipality has a tax base. There is nothing you can do in Kwakwa, because 54%, when I was still premier, of the people of Kwakwa were depending on social grants. 54%. I think every month the government, I knew in each and every town, government was paying so much. So if people are depending on social grants, it means they don't have any capacity for skills development and all that. So education then became a priority, as correctly identified in our election manifesto. And we focus, not myself and the team, we focus on education. And I can tell you, go and ask the people of Kwakwa. We took all the kids around the farms surrounding Kwakwa, Tabamfutsanyana. We built hostels for all the farm kids in the Free State. They must stop traveling on road, running, bicycles and all that. We built state-of-the-art hostel accommodation so that they have a nurse there, they have a social worker there, and I think that's the legacy we have actually left. It's not only Kwakwa. You can go to Bensvlei in Bloemfontein, you can go to Ventersburg, you can go to Harib, you can go to the Atalawa, where there were 43 farmhouses, mud houses. If you go there, we ensure that there is a school, and all surrounding kids go to that boarding school. The facilities, we build houses for teachers, and we turn that the Atalawa into an agri-village with the assistance of national. The minister then was Comrade Nkwinti. Without the national, we could not have created agri-villages like Velemina, 8 kilometers away from Fixbeck, as well as the Atalawa and Mahulubwe.
So, if we look at the poverty that you spoke about earlier, one then has to admit that most of this has to do with failed policies, economic policies. Do you agree?
You see, people always criticize us by saying, but ANC is good, and I've heard a lot of people saying South Africa is good, has good policies and all that, but we fail in implementation. I once visited, in fact, I visited Rwanda several times because it was one country where I could see the leadership in action with communities, and I went there to learn. And they said, you know, here in Rwanda, some of the things we have taken them from you, African National Congress, be it street committees and all that. If you arrive in Rwanda today as an outsider from that country, the next day they know that there is this man, he's not a local. And I said, but how do you? They said, no, the M plan, the Mandela plan. You decided to come with street committees. We took that concept, we are implementing it here in our country. So we are just weak in terms of implementing all the good resolutions, all the good policies we have. And we, sometimes I say, once you get into a position, corridors of power takes you, and you leave and forget, and you think you have arrived, and you forget about the people. So Simpiwe is right. I'm not going to defend myself. There is poverty in Qwaqwa. It was based on artificial economy of the homeland system. And but today I can tell you, in Qwaqwa, as I was saying with JJ yesterday, we have created medical doctors, we have created nurses, we have created pharmacists, the dentists, aeronautics, pharmaceutical engineers, not only in Qwaqwa, in the whole part of the Free State. That's why we sent 189. In fact, there were 202 who went to Cuba for medicine, because in Cuba, they do what is called a comprehensive medical program, the Mandela Castro program of action. And there is no town in the Free State which has no medical doctor. Tabancho, I checked last time, we had 12 doctors from Cuba who comes from Tabancho. They are qualified now. They are in our various hospitals. I met one of the doctors here in Edenvale Hospital. Simpiwe, work in progress.
Let me just quickly go to Justice before I ask my next question. Justice and Alex. Hi, Justice. Thanks for your patience.
Hi, Pamela. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Go ahead.
I'm fine. I have 4 questions for Magashule.
Justice. Maybe 2. Maybe 2. Let's try 2.
No. Okay, Pamela, please.
There's so many people who are waiting. Justice, let's be fair.
Okay. Yeah, you mentioning numbers of unemployment rate in the country. I'd like to know, during your term as a premier of Free State, how many jobs have you created, except solidification of the positions of the companies, private security companies, that you just solidified in making sure that those people would have a brighter future? Secondly, you're saying you went before courts out of your own goodwill, but yet at the same time you're still using people as shields, a human shield, so that you should never see that day materializes in you sitting before the judge and being judged. So if you so truly have decided that you go before court, can you then listen to your constituency if we were to ask you to wake up tomorrow and tell those who are standing in the way of the court administering a law to stay back so that you face your day in court? Third question, I would like to know whose brainchild was the Astina Farm, whose brainchild Astina Farm is. And thirdly, How was it possible, under your watchful eye, that 3,500 asbestos houses were cooked to 350,000 asbestos-roofed houses? And the last one, why was the money to be paid to you in cash instead of wired into your account? What was hidden there?
Where?
Justice is still there? Oh, we've lost Justice. Ms. Magashule, maybe respond to what you can.
Well, justice depends on allegations, on street gossips. Allegations are allegations, Justice. If you don't like me, you'll come with allegations. You don't base your things on facts. I am facing my day in court, and I think unfairly so, and I will prove in court. So give me that space and time. Respect my rights also as a South African. I have said we did away with outsourcing of security, of cleaning. So I don't know when you talk about private security companies, what you're talking about. I've never used people as human shield. If people go to court, support me and others, I can't say don't do that. Justice on asbestos, you'll get your facts in court. I have said yesterday, as Premier, I'm not the accounting officer, I'm the executive authority. If you understand by law and how government operates, and therefore, indeed, what I was told is that Free State has applied Section 32, where Gauteng was dealing with asbestos. Free State applied to Gauteng Department to say we'll copy what we have done because we don't have to advertise. Something has already happened in your province. And it was not about the removal of asbestos. It was about the assessment and all that. I am not involved in that. It's part of the Department of Human Settlement. I had nothing to do with that. And let me prove to you maybe, and I wish and I hope you say have your day in court. I have my day in court, and I appreciate and I want it to happen. So tell your guys not to play dice and delay because they want to exhaust you. Justice delayed is justice denied. But otherwise, Estina and all that, the Department of Agriculture in the Free State, and the Department of Finance, as well as engaging the Department of Agriculture, National and Treasury, were actually people who actually brought the concept to us, Mohoma Mobu, and that's how the Estina farm came into being. There are many other projects like people are not talking about it because maybe it's a white company and all that. It's fine. I don't want to compare this and that and try to argue. I'm just saying, Justice, wait for things to unfold and you'll know the truth because the truth will always prevail against all the lies.
It's 9:01. We'll keep taking your calls and we'll also take you from social media as well, social media platforms. I see many of you are asking, in fact, these are just comments more than anything. One is saying, well, you say that Chris Hani would be proud. Chris Hani would be ashamed of. This is Tembelani who says Hani would be embarrassed by Abu Magashule. Your response to that, they're asking.
I'm saying yes. You will be embarrassed. When the organization is divided and all that, these are the people who have fought for freedom. And fortunately, I've worked with him, and that's why I say he will be embarrassed by our actions, whatever. And I've said, when I talk about us, I also put myself there. I'm not putting myself out of the organization, the African leadership and its leadership.
Ms. Magashule, what do you make of the recent cabinet shuffle?
Well, I'm not president.
I know, but you've got an opinion, aren't you? Somebody that has an opinion on these things.
Some of our opinions, what will I say? Because for now, let me not comment on something which I don't know. So, benefit of that, let's say the president did whatever he has done.
All right. Let's take Lebohang, who's calling us from Alberton. Lebohang, hi.
Hi, Phemelo.
Hi, welcome.
Thank you very much. I've been listening into this interview. That Magashule, with all due respect, it really sounds like you're campaigning for yourself here.
No, I don't.
And as you have mentioned before, the corridors of power has definitely swallowed some of your colleagues.
Many of
My
us.
opinion is that you have also been swallowed. And lastly, I just want to ask you, why do you still refer yourself as the Secretary General of the organization?
Why do I do what?
Why do you still call yourself?
Why do you still refer to yourself as the SG of the organization?
Let me respond to you by posing.
Thank you very much, Phemelo.
By posing a rhetorical question to you. Why don't you think I was elected by branches of the ANC, which are basic units? That's my answer to you.
You have made us angry. You have failed the organization. And the people that you are mentioning, they are probably turning in their graves. Your actions are appalling.
I agree with you. So what else should I say to you? Because I say I take collective responsibility.
Then let's go to Kagiso, who is in Ekurhuleni. Hi, Kagiso.
Dumela.
Dumela Ntateleka.
Thank you. Magashule, there are things here that we have to have discussions of. And one, you are coming out as somebody who's trying to re-cleanse himself after the damage is done. Whether apartheid or not, that it was a quick transportational hub for everything. And you came into power, you disturbed certain things. And secondly, if you say you are following the laws and disciplines of the ANC, when they said you should not be going to public platforms and representing you for 2 days, you've been campaigning as somebody who is clean, where it means you are defiant of the resolutions taken by the NEC. You are on media, you are talking, you campaigned for the former president, people to go, you asked people to go to Pietermaritzburg to court. Those are the facts. And the third,
are you sure those are the facts? Because you're talking something. I am passing people.
You were there. You were there saying you want people to come to Pietermaritzburg. It is there in the media. You can replay it yourself in an interview via SABC. Or you want people to come to Pietermaritzburg and support. So that one is what you said. We are not quoting rumors or something.
But I'm not passing them. If they go, they go.
No. But if you are saying to people, you must come, we will make sure that we get in. They must come. That means you know the means. You are instructing people. And secondly, there's a clear matter of a team that has died, and you are part of the people responsible of Bloemfontein Celtics dying, its legacy dying under your watchful eye and killing the Malemela's legacy of Free State.
Wabona wena utlaka street gossips. Because Bloemfontein Celtics, when I was MEC Sports, when I was Premier, the sponsorships for Bloemfontein Celtics, whether from Vodacom and MTN, were facilitated by me. And during my term as Premier, we were funding even some of the games and transport of Bloemfontein Celtics. So don't come with things you take from nowhere. And if you talk about Kwakwa being transportational hub, then you don't understand the Bantu homeland system and its repercussions over a period of years. Blame us for not having done certain things. Blame the organization and all of us. We take the blame where we are being criticized. So where you have good points, thank you very much. But for you to come and say you are transporting people and doing this, and I have rights like you. And I think you talk like a comrade who's also very angry. Just cool down, my brother.
Mr. Magashule, you've been speaking about people who are gunning for you, who are targeting you politically, and I wonder whether, since that is now a fact that is out in the open, whether you do see prospects of expulsion within the ANC, whether you think about those prospects, because my argument then would say to you that at the rate people are going, that you talk of, we don't have names at this point. They're relentless. You speak about being bugged as well and so on, that you're being followed, that you feel unsafe, that there is definitely a campaign against you. If they're successful, they're not going to rest. They will expel you in the ANC. Is that a prospect that you actually think about?
This is the life we have chosen, and I've chosen it. And my friends, family, comrades know about it. And me, I'm very principled. If I have to die for my principles, I've said I will die. So it's not about being expelled or not being expelled. Being an ANC member, being your blood green and gold, doesn't mean that you can even have an ANC membership card, because a membership card sometimes doesn't mean anything. And there are those masses of our people who have no membership card, who have not been leaders, but their blood is black, green, and gold. So this and that and that and that, my blood will remain black, green, and gold because all the things we have fought for, which the ANC was fighting for, will remain things for as long as I'm there. Whatever happens, it doesn't matter for me.